Welcome to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta Sapphire, an attorney.
I'm Camille Barron, a financial coordinator, both of us from Massachusetts. And Roberta, remember not too long ago we had John Waterman.
Right.
And he talked about pursuing his passion. His passion was glass blowing. And remember all those beautiful pieces of art? Well, a lot of people were very fascinated by the fact that somebody could have the courage and the will to pursue their passion. And today's guest actually has done that, only has made it truly his career.
Yes, and we are so lucky to have with us Jay Fernandez.
Hi, how you doing?
And Jay, you are so fascinating that I don't want to spill the beans ahead of time, but tell us about yourself and your passion.
All right, well, my passion is music. I guess it started when I was a baby, according to my mother. She used to sing to me, and then one of my first words was music. Of course, I pronounced it mooick. Mooick, mooick.
Can you prove that?
All I can do is ask her, And so I was really fascinated with music, and she loved music, and so she played Dave Brubeck a lot, which was, he had this album called Time Out, which was a pretty famous album at the time. And the first song on it is called Blue Rondo a la Turk, and it's this really unusual meter. It's in 9/8 time, which just basically means instead of like 1, 2, 3, 4, it goes like da 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 da.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And so in my mind, I saw these two little dancing things like da 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 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2, and I just when you're that young, I think it just kind of molds. You're still learning language and all this other stuff. So I think it kind of molded this musical fascination or obsession or whatever you want to call it, passion.
Did she play music?
She played by ear. My grandfather played a little bit of guitar, and my mother played a little bit of piano. Her brother was pretty musical, played trumpet, and that's why he liked Miles Davis and different things like that. So when I was a kid, like from 6 months on to about 2, I was listening to this stuff all the time. So I think it just kind of ingrained itself. I just really, really went for it. I really enjoyed it, and so it became my passion.
And what do you do now? How do you pursue it today?
Right.
How did it translate into your career today?
Okay, well today I run my own recording studio called Saucer Sound. It's in Norton, Mass. And so I basically record people. I arrange music for them. I do all that type of stuff for them. So anything from recording to arranging or playing parts for them if they need drums, bass, and string parts, horn parts, whatever.
And you play all those instruments?
Well, not really. Fortunately, with the technology, because I learned the keyboards, I took piano lessons starting when I was about 6. So because I can play keyboards, nowadays with the technology of sampling and synthesizers and all this other stuff, I can actually create those instruments. I'm actually digitally recreating those instruments.
I see.
Go back to your childhood.
Yeah, okay.
6, and then we'll go
Sure,
further.
yeah.
But that's good. She does what I do.
Yeah, that's good.
I usually jump from here and there.
Oh, sure, no problem. Well, I just basically loved music, and I was fortunate enough to have my mother give me piano lessons when I was 6, starting when I was 6. And
you remember back then?
Yes, I do. I remember. Like my first piano recital, I was like 6 years old. I just remember like going on stage. I guess I arrived just at the nick of time, and oh, it's your turn, you're up. So they just pushed me on stage, and I play the music, and then I get off stage. I could barely even remember doing it. I'm like, oh boy, I'm glad. I hope I didn't screw anything up. I just, sometimes you just lose yourself when you're doing the music.
Where did you live?
I lived in Norton.
Oh, so you lived
And
there.
I had Mrs. Montesanti, who was she was also like the Catholic Church choir lady, and so I also sang in the choir. When I was about 8, I sang on WARA radio as one of 3 little boys that sang, and the choir sang behind us. We sang the song on the radio. So I've been kind of doing it since I was a kid, but I think at that point I don't think I even thought that. I thought everyone did that. It's like my mother didn't say, "Would you like to take piano lessons?" She says, "Well, it's time to take piano lessons." I'm like, "Okay." I did that. I was, okay, I guess that's what I thought everyone was doing. What do I know?
Well, that's fascinating.
Did you ever hear of? I'm working on a centennial now and the music of it, and I found Balling the Jack.
Oh, yeah.
But
my mother told me about that song.
I have to. Oh, okay. My mother told me about that. I was going to say you have to be careful because it seems that at a certain age, people never heard of it.
Right.
Like nobody heard of Roy Rogers or Gene Autry today.
Right, right.
Boy, they're missing out on.
Yeah, and I'm aware of
But
them,
okay,
but-
so you did that, and then now it's time to go to school. I mean, did
Right.
you ever talk about when that you were going to go on and be a musician or?
Well, I didn't really think of it as a career. My mother always encouraged me to do music, and in fact, I was fascinated with the tape recorders. At the same time, for me, it's kind of unusual. My uncle had a little tape recorder, and he let me, press record and play. I talked and I'd come back, and I'd hear the sound, and I'm like, oh my God, it was like magic to me. I was like, oh my God. And I thought, I was about 8, like I said, and I said, gee, what I could do with music and this device. Like I thought I had invented recording,
Wow.
like nobody else had thought of that. And so I started recording my music and then I got another tape recorder. I just sort of got a few little tape recorders and started like doubling my voice and singing it twice and adding other instruments. So my mother encouraged me. She got me like a drum kit and a guitar and bass, which I could play a little bit. I'm really a keyboard player. I'm not really much of a. I can play a little bit. I can fake people out on the drums, things like that. But it's not really like professionally, high quality or anything like that. But so I was fortunate to do that. But my father, who ran, which we talked about before, he ran Fernandes Supermarket. So he was a big businessman. And
Yeah,
so-
this is what's interesting. A lot of times people pursue their passion because they may not have anything else.
Right.
Or they pursue it part-time. There are a lot of people. We have one of our attorneys on the show. He also does a band. So you do it. But you went full-time, and it wasn't because you had nothing else. Your father was an entrepreneur. He had a string of supermarkets.
Right. That's right.
In fact, if you don't mind, he lives where he lives. The whole circle and everything is named Fernandes Circle. It's a whole family compound. So
Right.
he came from a well-to-do thing, and go ahead into
Right.
the music. I mean, did he
So-
buy you auditoriums
Did
and
they-
things like
I
that?
know.
or-
Did they encourage you to go into the business
You'd
to
think
start
that,
with?
but I can tell you sort of a parallel story where that did happen, but it wasn't with me. But anyway, my father really didn't. He always said, "Well, I don't. How are you going to make a living?" And he couldn't have. He was just the opposite of my mother. Like very, sort of, very analytical and just business, and couldn't. I tried to explain to him like how. I could make money. He couldn't understand how anyone could actually make money in music, and really had basically like a tin ear. He couldn't. He just didn't. Didn't fill him with the joy that many people experience. But he just didn't really reach him in a lot of ways. Sometimes it did though, but not often. And so I was kind of encouraged to. Follow his, I was like, well, here you are. You have this great opportunity to step into this business and whatever. And so, and my cousins had gone into it, and so I said, okay, well, I guess I should probably do that because I'm so lucky to have that opportunity that I should pursue the business and whatever.
Was this before you went to college, or
This
while you were?
is right as I was deciding to go to school.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
I ended up applied to several schools, and I got accepted, but the one I went to was BU, which happened to be the same school my father went to.
So he must have liked
so
that.
So here I'm doing everything for Daddy. I'm going to
Yeah, I
Daddy's
went
school, and
there
I'm
too.
studying business administration, and I'm doing.
I went there.
I went there too.
Oh,
I
yeah,
went
did
there
you?
too. Yeah, we got a lot
Okay,
of
well,
there
My
you go.
daughter went there
Communication
too.
school.
Yeah, I transferred
That's
to the
what I did, too.
communication school too. That's why I know a little bit about this, just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Business, yeah.
But so yeah, I was in business. Well, I'm not. This isn't really doing it for me because I was at all of my roommates I was at West Campus at BU, and they were all these rich kids that were going to go into their father's business. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is the group of people I'm in. And every other weekend, their parents would let them fly to Cancun and do all this stuff. Of course, my dad wouldn't let me do that. But I'm like, and they were not. It wasn't their passion. They didn't care that this wasn't something they wanted to do. It was just expedient.
Yeah.
And
Easy.
it was just
Easy.
easy. It was the easy route. It was, and I don't blame them. I was doing the same thing. I mean, they had,
But if you look at a lot of businesses, so-and-so and Sons, or the locksmith, he brings the locksmith, the plumber has his son and his grandson, and the electrician, the son and the grandson.
There's even
and-
septic system. The cleaners
Yeah.
have daughters. It has
Oh,
their
yeah, and
daughters.
the daughters there. So people
Right.
usually, in fact, there are some countries, I think, you have to do what your parents did. You
Sure.
you can't do it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they never even think that there's something else. So
Right.
you were thinking that there's something else.
Well, yeah, what started to eat at me as I was with these other kids and whatever, is like, I knew that I was really into music, and my roommate would complain at the end of the year. He goes, you know, all you ever talked about was music. I couldn't stand living with you, and blah, blah, blah. And all you're into is music.
Well,
and
that made you feel good.
And so, yeah, it made me feel the nice, warm and fuzzy feeling I was getting. And it was funny because when I was in that group of people, I really almost couldn't talk. I felt almost introverted, like I had nothing to say. You know, because really all my thoughts were about music, and that's really all I thought about most of the time. And then I started to question, I said, I'm not socializing well, I'm not fitting in here. And I thought, is there something wrong with me? Do I have some kind of autism or psychological problem or whatever? I started to self-doubt myself. And finally, and then of course I switched into the public communication school, which was a little bit better. And I was people a little more artistic and a little bit, you know, different mindset. And that was good, except that it would have been my 4th semester at School of Public Communication. On the first day, they pushed me, they wanted me to go into journalism, okay, because I was a good writer. The dean of the school
the dean
wanted
of the
me to go,
school.
Dean Yeager, I think at the time.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I
Dean
think it was the
Yeager.
day with
Yeah,
Dean
that's
Yeager.
amazing. So that's cool.
Oh, that's so
so
funny.
Dean Yeager says, you know, I really think you should go into journalism. He said, I'd won the journalism cup in high school, which I didn't even know they had.
Really?
It was just
Wow.
for like creative writing. I just thought I
Yes.
wrote funny stories, or I just had
interesting.
so because I wrote the most interesting stories, I won the journalism cup, you know, which is a surprise to me. I didn't even know they had one. But so anyway, Dean Yeager said, okay, you should go into journalism. I was like, fine. So then the first day of this one class, which was specifically about journalism and news writing, the professor, I don't know if you remember, I don't remember her name now, but she used to be the editor of the Boston Herald, and she actually taught this class. So she goes around. She says, "The first thing I want to do," she says, "I want to mention how what a great feeling it is to get a hot scoop and to meet interesting people and all this stuff." And I'm going, and she was really passionate about that. But meanwhile, I'm going, I don't want to do that. I am an interesting person. I am a hot scoop. And I really felt that.
I
Inside,
think you are too.
deep down inside, I felt that. Okay?
That's why we love this.
And
no, I
yeah.
really do love
And
it. The
so-
people are so fascinating.
So she asked about what their goals were, and I kind of just mouthed off something, you know, to try to, you know, sound something that would sound believable about why I was in that room. But I knew to my very core that this is not the place for me. This is not it. And I knew that I was going to have to tell my dad, and it's one of those things, giving up an opportunity to be, you know, to follow his footsteps and to have something, you know, and to do something like music. It's like, well, I could be the world's biggest loser here. You know, you just look like you're this guy who's like throwing, you know, throwing all this good
That's
stuff away.
another show.
That's another,
The
World's Biggest Loser. I need to
Loser.
go on that show too, but
I don't know.
that's another story. I'm working on it. But anyway, so I had to. I went back home, talked to my dad, and I took a semester off, and I practiced and. Then I applied to Berklee College of Music, and I got accepted there. And then it was like I was at home. Then it was like I was with people that I could just talk to and feel comfortable with.
Really?
And, you know, at the other colleges, everyone wanted to have like these big parties and stuff. But see, when you're a musician, you are the party. That's when you work.
interesting.
You
You are
serve,
the party.
you make the party. So the last thing I want to do on a night off is to go to a club or to go, because that's like going to work. You know, it's a whole different viewpoint. But when you're among artists and musicians, and like the ones I got to know at Berklee, it was a different mindset, and I felt much more comfortable.
Really?
So that was a big thing for me. But I think that what you have to decide for yourself, this is the thing, especially if you're going to go into something like music or you know, say acting or something that's very, very competitive, the chances are you're not going to become rich and famous. You know, it may happen, but you have to feel inside of you that you have some sort of divine gift that you have that's so special that it's your duty to pursue it. Okay?
That's beautiful.
So it's not just So it's not just a simple. I really like to do this a lot.
Well, you have to be something to be accepted at Berklee School of Music.
Right, yeah,
They
and
just don't
if
take
it wasn't for
anybody.
that, if it wasn't for the fact that I was accepted and that I did well, and the professors enjoyed my work when I did things, various things I did, that gave me the confidence that okay, I'm not kidding myself. You know, you have to feel. I mean, you have to have. You have to at least, like I tell people when they ask me, I say, well, you have to feel like you have this special gift. But even if you don't have it, you at least have to feel like you do, because everyone else
yeah.
in the business feels the same way about themselves. But it does help to have an affirmation of like, okay,
sure.
I graduated from school, I graduated from Berkeley, and you know.
Well, I have to say that we met Jay because my husband, when I met him, had was writing them songs. He wrote songs, and they're absolutely beautiful. So my son just been talking for years that we got to do something with these songs. They're so beautiful. But there's probably 100 million people out there. But anyway, he took us to Jay, and Jay took, you know, I mean, this is how talented he is. And what he was saying about his equipment, he took you sing the song, and then he provides a whole arrangement, and he adds all different things, whether it's the beat or the thing. So that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So that's why I want to
Thank
let
you.
people know what you do. You know, it's more than just a musician and this and that. But
Right,
tell us a little bit about, like, you graduated college.
Right.
Did you ever form a band and go
Yes.
entertaining and tell us about that, because this hopefully the people that watch it. It's never too late to pursue your passion. You don't
No, it
have to
isn't.
wait till you retire.
Right. Yeah. So I when I graduated from Berkeley, the first thing I said to myself was, I better get a job right away. I got to make sure Dad doesn't think I'm a ne'er-do-well, and so I formed a band. You know, immediately put out ads and formed a band. And our first band I was in called the Mints, and they were, you know, pretty successful, and in the Rhode Island area and a little bit in Boston, and you know, we were doing pretty well. And then we finally hooked up with this other band that was really on the verge of what many people thought was international, or at least national stardom, called the Probers. And so
I think I heard of
you
them,
may have heard of the
Probers,
Probers, because they advertised. We were played 6 nights a week.
Oh, my
We used to get, I guess we'd gross about $300,000 a year in the '80s, which was a good, you know,
That's a lot of money
you know, for a
back
lot of
then.
money.
It's a lot of money today,
for
too.
for a local band, that you
Yeah.
know, we did pretty well. And you know, we did, you know, television interviews, would make the news, would do charities and things like that. So we were pretty high profile, and we played in Boston and all over the East Coast, and with some pretty big, opened up for a lot of like famous people in the '80s. And
Did your father ever go see you?
yeah, well, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
It was only when we played the Providence Civic Center, which is now at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, which doesn't sound as good on my
No.
resume.
No,
No,
it
it
doesn't.
You know, like my biggest gig was now at the Dunkin' Donuts Center. Kind of messed up my resume.
Bring
but-
your own donuts.
Exactly.
America
We'll
runs
get the
that
coffee.
Dunkin'.
So-
Oh, yeah, we're getting
What-
commercial break.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? So we played in front of
Played
about
for
20,000 people. We opened up for a group called the Tubes, who at the time had a couple of big hits on the charts, and sure enough, he came to that show.
Wow.
So when it really looked like, and I've heard of this type of thing with many people that are in this type of business, whether it be acting or music, where the parent that really didn't have much faith, you know, finally said, oh, well, somebody likes them. There must be something to this thing that
Yeah.
they're doing, you know. So he did show up to that, and you know, and he also came to my graduation at Berkeley, which was nice. So you know, so he was supportive. It wasn't like he was totally non-supportive, but he was very, you know, weary of it, you know. But when it looked like we were doing some serious stuff, you know, he started to pay attention, which was good.
Really?
So that was good. But another thing, though, I learned about the business, though, is that when we were playing with this band called the Tubes, they at the time were on for like 12 years. They had finally reached like where they had two top 10 singles at the same time. Their tour was doing great, and they were very nice people. They actually, some of these acts won't even talk to the opening act, but these guys were friendly and nice. And then they actually said, you know what, we had some bad news. They actually shared this news with us, which I was surprised, that Capitol Records, who had signed them, all the people that had who were behind them, that supported them at that label, had quit or been fired. And at that time, this new music, like punk, was starting to become more popular. And so they just dropped them from the label and pulled the plug on their tour. And,
Oh, how awful.
Yeah. So I'm like, so in this
Oh, my
business,
God, what do you do in a case like that?
So one of the things I learned was that you have to be prepared for anything like that in this business. It's like it can happen where the corporate structure or whatever it is, they can just you know, you're sort of still at the mercy of the big wigs. It's different now because it's more independent. Record companies don't have as much power. People's downloads and things like, you know, Reverb Nation and these other things online, artists are a little more independent. But in those days, you know, you hear that story and you go, oh my God, this business never stops being difficult.
That's why you see some of these actors on late night TV and they'll go, how you doing? Well, I'm still working.
Right.
So I guess anything can happen.
Yeah. In fact, I just last night I was reading how I was listening to this interview with Jonathan Harris, who's a guy who played Dr. Smith on Boston Space, right? But he's saying that Betty Davis, when at one point she was out of work and she put, you know, Oscar-winning actress looking for jobs, and he said that she's the only actress that ever did that. But that led her, that she was bold enough to say, look, I'm an Oscar-winning actress, and I need a job. And that's when she got Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
I remember
And that sort of revived her, because she was already had a young career, but now she was old.
Yeah.
And then what do you do?
Well, she was great in there.
But she's
I
great.
remember that.
She's right from Quincy. She's one of
Really?
our
I didn't
local.
know
Yeah, she's a
that.
local girl.
We have, you know, a lot of talent from this area.
I think so, too. That's another point
They
I
go
could make.
right out to California, and a lot of them are into not just acting or singing,
Yeah.
but into producing, and
Right.
and they're all out there, and they've been out there for years, and they're still looking, or they take
Yeah.
jobs as
Well, if you look at Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, they're all Boston people.
yeah.
They're both Boston people.
Now, when you mentioned you have to be prepared,
Right.
what is it that you did, or what do you think you should have done to be prepared if you could have foreseen something like that happen?
Well, you know, and that's a good point, because you really have to be ready for, you know, in order to even get anywhere. I'll just want to backtrack a little bit. You have to make sure you do things in the right order. You have to have a plan. It's like, so say, you know, when I finished school, this sort of leads back to that point. So you have to have this plan. Okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and look at the steps and make sure the steps are done in the right order. You know, because if you, like, say for example, say you make a recording that's really good, and then you want to get it on the radio, and you put it on the radio, and everyone loves it. But guess what? You haven't made a record to buy. Then nobody can buy the record. And then by the time the buzz dies down, you try to sell your record, nobody wants it.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's making sure you're doing the right thing at the right time. You have to get, when do you get an agent? They're the people that book you into the clubs. That's the first person you get. Then you make sure you get a lawyer, because you're going to have to go. The first thing is getting a lawyer.
It's probably easier to get a lawyer than an agent.
Yeah, and you need the lawyer first so that you can do the contracts with everyone else you're going to deal with. Then you've got to get an agent to do your gigs, and then you have to have a manager. A manager is a person that can actually get you a record deal or whatever.
yes,
But the thing is, there's only a few top management people that will even that the record companies will even talk to. Like, you can't talk directly to the record companies. You have to go through a
So
manager
how do you get
that
the
they
manager?
know. Well, by first of all, you have to create your own, like, talk about business and everything. This is where it gets a little more like business, where you have to create the pie. And the first thing you have to do as an artist is realize that it's a business, and that you're going to form your own business. Okay? So it's like, it's not, you can't just say, well, I sing good, I play good, and people like to watch me on stage. I mean, you have to, it's a business. How are you going to monetize this? What products are you going to get out? You know, all that stuff. So you have to stop thinking like a businessman. So then it's like, gee, that business school would have come in handy.
Yeah. You stayed in business.
Maybe you stay there just another semester or two. You know? So, and that's where a lot of artists that fall short. You know, and you can't do everything and be everything.
Yeah.
But on my own, I looked up different, you know, how to form departments and divisions, and managing by statistic, and doing all these various things. So I learned that, and so then as I started to employ that was one thing, and then, you know, you learn, okay, well, you can't, like, if you go to a record company and say they do like you or something, and then they say, well, do you have a manager? And you say no. While you're looking for a manager, okay, because they won't sign you without a management, that while you're looking for a manager, they'll find someone else that they like just as much who already has a manager, and they're ready to sign.
Yeah.
You know? And
That's
the same thing with everything. You have to have all your ducks lined up in a row, so that, you know, even if you sign with a manager, you want to sign with a manager, he likes you, and then, well, we don't have a lawyer yet. While you're looking for a lawyer, the manager will find some other actor.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was telling you about, you've got to be kidding. All I can say is you've got to be kidding. But what an inspiration you are.
Oh,
You'll either get people to follow a passion, or you'll get them to say, well, I'll go in business with Dad. I don't want to. You have to also have the desire and work. You have to work.
Yeah,
and you have to work hard. Nobody's handing it to you.
Right. It's much more difficult than people realize. Even today when I have interns come in and they see what you have to do to be in the business of recording engineering, whatever, it is hard work, and it's not, you know, and people just don't see the hard work. That's.
But are you happy?
I'm very happy, yeah.
So then it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's the end result of when you get to hear the music and what you hear, you know, in your imagination when it comes to fruition, and you can hear the dream come true. It's like
You've done what a lot of people wish to do, but don't have the guts to do.
Right.
And there is only one life.
Yeah, and I think that you know, again, it's like you have to feel that you really have to do it. I mean, I wonder, gee, could I have ever? I suppose, you know, I could have been a dentist. I suppose I could have been a whatever. I went to BU. I had good SATs. I could have done whatever. I could have been a contender as a.
Well, you also to pretty well end it off. I think we got a little. You got to be kidding, but you were also an actor. You got, did you get
a little bit?
Bats,
when I was at BU,
bats?
I did a little bit of acting there too, and they encouraged that. And they said, you know, the teacher said, you know, you might be good at acting, and I'm like, okay, you know, all right, acting. And so then I actually did work in a film. It never got released, but I did some acting in a film with this gentleman, David Singer. Someday we'll probably see the light of day or whatever on DVD.
There's a lot of groups come to Sharon to film. From the schools, we have a lot of the acting schools, and they film along the lake, and they just hope. You've got to be kidding. No, I'm not kidding. But you know what's interesting. What did you do about like for health insurance? I'm working into it. You've got to be kidding. What did you do with that? You had to provide your own health insurance.
Yeah, I had to, you know, and it's tough when you have to get health insurance for like. For people who have independent business, it's like, you know, independent business insurance.
We don't even have. You know what I was going to do for you? Got to be kidding. We hardly have the time. But there's, you know, with the health insurance, there are companies that are researching and sending their employees to, you know, bargain surgeries there.
Yeah.
You're supposed to say you've got to be kidding.
You've got to be kidding. Yeah.
No, I'm not. So I think we have to end, although I don't want to, and I'm going backwards. No, you don't get up.
No.
This is how you got to be
All
kidding
right.
back. But,
All right. Thank you very much. It's truly an inspiration, especially when you have some resistance. You had it kind of in your family, but you just had the belief, and you had the will and the courage, and that's admirable.
Well, thank you
I
very
wish you
much.
great success.
Thank you
Continued
so much.
success.
Thank you.
So that was a great idea to have this fellow here. He's I really admire that, and I'm sure our viewers really enjoyed it. So anyway, we ask you to please continue to send us your emails for ideas that you have, and if you want any more information about Jay, I'm sure that he wouldn't mind if you sent us an email and we put you in touch with him. Maybe you have a great inspiration, or maybe you have a song that you are thinking about, and he might be able to help you. So remember, let us hear from you, because this is your show. The law, your money, and you.